Hey guys, it's time for chapter 17 of Woods Runner. We are nearing the end of this book and it is getting good. In chapter 16, Abner and Samuel, and his mother, who he ran into the minute he arrived in New York, have hatched a plan to rescue his mother and his father, who is in the old sugar mill prison. Half of that has already commenced. His mother has gone to the prison to pass word to his father about where to be at midnight. It's all happening tonight. So, let's see how it plays out. But first, here's a little info on prisoners of the British. During the war, at least 16 British hulks, ships that had been damaged and abandoned, lay in the water off the shores of New York City as floating prisons. Over 10,000 prisoners died of intentional neglect, starvation, and untreated disease. Their bodies were tossed overboard into the harbor or buried in shallow graves at the shoreline by fellow prisoners. Chapter 17. Darkness. Like the inside of a dead cow. There had been a sliver of a moon, but clouds covered it, and with it came a soft rain, enough to make everything wet and uncomfortable outside. A godsend. Even drunken soldiers didn't like to be out in the rain. Remember, that was one of their obstacles. Abner and Samuel had gone by the sugar mill just before dark to look it over. Samuel's mother had been right. Only one door was being used, and 2 guards stood there talking. One had a chair. There was a small roof over the entry to keep the rain off. The building was strangely quiet. If there are hundreds of men packed inside, Samuel thought, there should be more noise. They walked past the guards, who paid them no mind, and down alongside the building. Now and then they could hear scuffing and thumping against the wall on the inside, but nothing else. When they had walked completely past the building, they crossed the street and came back on the other side. Because of the rain, there weren't many soldiers along the walkway, and no one bothered them. They went along the river to a point close to where Matthew would come across and then moved into some trees along the bank. It was starting to get dark. Abner pulled a small oil-soaked bag from the inside of his coat and took out a watch. 7:30. He put the watch back, settled down against the tree, and hunched up the collar of his coat. Try to get some sleep, because later tonight there won't be any. How are we going to do it? Samuel asked. Get him out. Simple plans are the best, Abner said. Did you see all those bricks around the steps? They probably have more around the porch when the place was new. Now the bricks have all fallen. I'll distract the guard. You take a brick and hit him over the head. That's your plan? Samuel stared at him. What if both guards are there? Abner said, I'll be ready for him. You just do your part. Samuel still stared. We've come this far, and you tell me to just hit him over the head with a brick? Hard, Abner added. Hit him over the head hard. Then we open the door, grab your father, and run like hell. Or as fast as we can go. Scoop up your mother, get in the boat, get across the Hudson, hook up the mules, get in the wagon, and head out. A good, simple plan. And in the end, that was exactly the way it worked. Almost. Samuel surprised himself. After an hour of his thoughts tumbling over each other without sense or reason, in spite of the rain, a veil slipped over his mind and he slept, leaning against the same tree as Abner. Let's get to it! Abner shook him awake, close to midnight. Samuel rubbed his face and stood. Abner was gone in the darkness, and Samuel had to hurry to catch up. Their path took them past the house where Samuel's mother worked. She was already outside and saw them approach. I'm coming with you, she said softly as they neared, to help. No, hold here. We'll be back, Abner whispered shortly. As they walked closer to the sugar mill, Abner took off his coat and wrapped it so it seemed he was carrying a bundle. There was a tiny glow from a lantern near the guard. the kind with a small candle inside, and a slit to let out a sliver of light. It was enough for Samuel to see some bricks. He picked one up before they moved within range of the guard. "Halt!" the guard said as he saw them. Samuel held the brick behind him. "State your purpose." "Bring in food," Abner said, holding up the bundle, "for the prisoners." "Advance." The guard stepped forward, interested in the package. They climbed the steps to the entrance. Abner in front of the guard and Samuel slightly to the side, gripping the brick. Abner held the bundle out. Abner held the bundle out. The guard put the butt of the musket on the ground to free one hand to open the soft package. He leaned forward, and Abner said in a soft, conversational tone, "Now, Samuel." And Samuel hit the guard with the brick. Hard. A moment's hesitation, then the guard fell. Abner caught him, slid him off to one side of the door, laid him on the platform, turned the door. "Padlocked," he swore. Gently, delicately, he worked the keys off the guard's belt and unlocked the door. He flung it open. Samuel's father was in the doorway, and even in the dim glow, Samuel could see that he was in bad shape, face skull-like, eyes sunken. He almost fell into Samuel's arms. But he wasn't alone. 40 more men were waiting with him. As soon as he was outside, they piled out, scattering like quail, a stream of prisoners, thin as cadavers, pouring out of the shed in a strange silence, moving off in all directions. "Come," Abner took Samuel's father's arm. "No time." With Abner on one side and Samuel on the other, they carried Samuel's father, toes dragging through the darkness. Samuel's mother was waiting and hurried over to help. Twice they tripped and stumbled in the darkness, but they were up fast and moved as rapidly as possible to where Matthew would be with the boat. But he wasn't there. "I'll look up and down the bank," Abner said. "Stay here and watch." He vanished upstream in the darkness. Minutes that seemed like hours passed before he came back. "Nothing. I'll check downstream." Again, in an unimaginable amount of time, while the three of them stood in silence, Abner came back, shaking his head. "Are you sure, Matthew?" Samuel started to ask. They heard a dull thump in the darkness on the water, and then Matthew's voice. "Over here! Here!" Caught a crab of wind on the way up, and it kicked me downstream. Had to track back up. "Here. Over here." They found the boat almost by feel, out in 1 foot of water. Samuel half carried his father to the side, and he fell into the boat. "He needs help," Samuel said. "Get him up and in the cabin, please. Help him." Matthew pulled him into the cabin, then helped Samuel's mother onto the boat and into the cabin as well. Abner jumped in, and Matthew pulled up the sail, which filled in the freshening breeze. He said to Samuel, "Push off as you come aboard." Samuel did so, tripped, flopped into the mud, and lost the boat and was nearly left behind. In one lunge, he caught the gunwale. The boat was picking up speed rapidly, pulled himself in, and nearly fell in Abner's lap. Right then, the world ashore went berserk. A gunshot, another. Lighted torches could be seen in the vicinity of the sugar mill, carried every which way. "You didn't," Abner said, "hit him hard enough." "I thought I killed him." He raised the alarm. "It doesn't matter at all," Matthew said. "We're away from the light. Torches won't cast out here. Besides, they're looking in all directions." A passel of other men came out at the same time. They went all over. Abner sighed and leaned back, resting. It was good fortune. "Fortune favors the well-prepared," Matthew said. He stood from the bucket where he was sitting and took out a package wrapped in cloth. Emily sent beef sandwiches and milk mixed with rum. "Rum?" Samuel asked. "Milk and rum?" "Heats the blood, makes the food go in better. It's not for you, but your father. Here, hand it in the cabin. Tell him to eat slow or he'll lose it. Samuel took the package and moved into the cabin. If possible, it was darker inside than it was outside. Mother, Father? Here, his mother said, and he felt a hand on his arm. Father is next to me. I'm here, his father said. Samuel, I am so thankful to see you. A small laugh. Well, I can't see you at all. My son, I never dreamed you were still alive, much less that you would win me my freedom in this bold manner. His voice was faint. Hold out your hand. Samuel fumbled in the package and pulled out a sandwich. Matthew brought food. He held a sandwich out in the void, felt a hand grasp it. He heard his father wolfing it. Eat slow, or Matthew says you'll lose it. He fished a small lidded crock out of the package. Here's some warm milk mixed with rum. He says it will make the food go down better. The chewing slowed, and he held the crock out in the darkness. Felt his mother's hand take it. Here, she said, I've got it, Samuel. Who are those men? We owe them so much, and we don't even know them. They're friends. Abner and Matthew. Matthew owns the boat. We met Abner on the way. Oh yes, you have a daughter. What? You'll meet her when we get to the wagon. Her name is Annie. She needs us. It's been part of this run. He took a few moments to tell them about the part with Annie, without too many details of the Hessian attack. It was too terrible to describe. Then she's our daughter, his mother said in a firm voice. From now on, as good as blood. His father stopped chewing, swallowed, drank some of the rum and milk mixture. Food. When you haven't had it for a while, it tastes as sweet as anything you've ever eaten. Tell Mr. Matthew thank you. You're welcome, Matthew said from the tiller, which was only 6 feet away. I'll tell Emily you like her food. Like it? It's life itself. Eh? I feel guilty, though, Samuel's father whispered. So many men in that shed, in other sheds, starving, and I get food. It is the way of it, Abner put in from the darkness, of war. You get some don't. Some live, some don't. It's the way of it. It's bad. Yes, it is, but it is our lot now, and we must live it. Abner sighed. The best we know how. And with that there was silence the rest of the way across the river, broken only by the lap of water on the side of the boat. Guys, that concludes chapter 17. I'm going to read real quick on the treatment of prisoners of war. Prisoners were only given 1 cup of water a day below decks. The rations issued only in the morning, and only half those received by British soldiers were largely inedible. Leftover food from England that was old, stale, and in many cases rotten. It was not until the 19th century that supplies for captives were expected to be provided by their captors. During the Revolutionary War, their own army, government, and families attempted to provide for their prisoners. Wow. So, the captors weren't expected to feed their captives. So it was up to the people who were yet to be captured to feed them, which is pretty terrible. Okay, now I want to ask you guys a question. Why is it good fortune for Samuel's father to have been followed out by 30 or 40 other men? Think about it. And as you take notes, don't forget to think about the history of this, like the treatment of his father, of what could even happen to the people who were spies and rescuing people. Like, what if Matthew was found out? But anyway, I'm anxious to see the reunion with Annie and hopefully a happy ending. We'll see what they do when they decide to, I mean, like, he's got his parents. That's what we all wanted. So there's 3 more chapters left. Now what? Let's find out tomorrow.